everybody, and welcome to this week's Market Shapers. I'm very excited to be joined by Marti Voorheis with Dave Perry Miller. Marti, thanks for sitting down with us for a bit.
Thank you for having me.
I always like to start with maybe just tell a little bit about your journey into real estate. You know, what you did before, and then kind of how you got into this crazy business.
Well, I moved around a bit when I was growing up in Oklahoma and graduated from high school when I was 16 and moved to California. And when I was 17, I bought the real estate books to take the test, but realized you had to be 18. And when you're 17, 18 is a long way away.
Yeah, seems like forever.
So
right, yeah.
I got distracted and then transferred to SMU, went to SMU, graduated, and met my husband, had 3 children, and we moved to Costa Rica for a year. And when we came back, I got my license. And it's obviously something I've always been passionate about. I've moved a lot. I love looking at homes.
You said even growing up you would draw floor plans and everything. And
yeah, as a child, instead
Yeah.
of stick figures, I was drawing floor plans. Oh, and I went to Pratt Institute when I was 16 for Intro to Architecture. I just somewhere along the way got sidetracked and got a degree in communications instead.
And you even talked about that move to Costa Rica. There was actually like 5 moves right in there in very short order, right?
Yes, 5 moves in 5 years.
Yeah. So that alone will give someone kind of a bird's eye view of
Right.
real estate right there.
Right.
Yeah, going through that process and that quickly in order. Yeah.
But it was exciting, and when I got my license, I made a post on Facebook that said, marketing department made it for me, and I just put it out there. And I was surprised that my neighbor from our first home called me and said, I'd like you to come over and interview, or we're going to sell our house. And I went over there, and she really put me through the ringer. I mean, she asked me a zillion
There was
questions.
no neighbor, kudos
Right,
given
and
there.
she knew that I was brand new, so
Right.
there was no hiding that.
Yeah.
And at the end, she said, well, we've already decided to hire you before you came over. And I was like, thanks a lot. And she said, do you want to know why? And I said, yes. And she said, because this is 15 years prior. She said, you moved in and you invited me to your bungo. And I was just so moved that somebody would remember that, and that would be significant enough for her to entrust me as a new agent to do something that important for her.
Well, and that's a pretty powerful lesson on listing appointment 1 that I'm guessing has carried forward into a lot of what you do in your business now.
Yeah. And then I posted that, and I got my second listing from the person who I bought my daughter's car from. She was a salesperson at a car dealership, and we connected on Facebook, and she said, I saw you just listed a house on that street. My grandmother is about to move, and she lives on that street too. And that's how I got the second one.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, one thing leads to another, and if you can just kind of use what you have at the time and market those things, that's kind of how it gets rolling.
Yeah, so to kind of talk a little bit about that, when you were starting off in real estate, or even maybe now when you are talking to agents who are newer to the business, what are some of those things that you recommend, especially in the beginning, for folks to maybe focus on to help kind of get themselves up and going?
Well, I think it's important to use different methods of marketing.
Right.
Digital, print, networking, open houses, videos, and then kind of see what you feel comfortable with and what you're good at, and do more of that. And then don't worry about everything else, because there's so many things that you can get bogged down in and think, how am I ever going to do all this?
Yeah, and if you don't like it, you're probably not going to do it with the frequency you need to, or do it well. And so what were some of those things that you gravitated to when you were newer into real estate? What activities, like you liked doing it, it felt right to you, and it proved out to be successful?
Well, I have a certification in web development, and so I think things that were digital, I saw different ways that you could, use social media.
Right.
And combine kind of email campaigns and things like that. So that's what I did more of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as your business has grown over the years, obviously, what are some of the other building blocks that you now incorporate into your business that maybe you weren't using back then?
I'm trying to get better at really building the list, because now I've gotten so busy, it's hard to keep on top of that.
Right.
Because once you have a list and you get a new listing, you can remember people from other,
Mm-hmm.
listings and open houses who are looking, and now you have that.
Right.
So really just, I think, keeping a structure that you can build on.
Right.
That's organized and detailed, and just that's key, being organized.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is that something that you do yourself, or has it been something that you kind of outsource to others to help you with? Like, what's your kind of recommendations there as people are thinking about it? Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've tried a couple different methods to enlist help.
Right.
There are tons of digital marketing people. We all are solicited every single day. But I think those are good for people that don't know anything about social media. Because
Right.
I used somebody for about a month, and I felt like they were doing what I was doing, which I
Mhm.
can do in like 5 minutes.
Right.
So, but it's a constant learning game, because technology is changing,
Mhm.
marketing is changing, and the method in which we do things, whatever it is, in this day and age, is always changing. And I think it's easy to see the same thing over and over, and people get bored of that. So
Yeah.
I try to take each listing and look at it, what will sell this house? What is the story of this house? Instead of like punch out things that
Yeah.
are.
So when you're doing that, like what's kind of the process when you're looking at a particular property and that seller, and when you go through that, like what will sell this house? Like what are some of the criteria or characteristics or things that you're looking for to kind of make what will work best for this house?
Well, I think it's always good to ask the seller, why did you buy this house?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because that's going to speak to the next person,
Yeah,
too.
it's great.
So, and kind of, what's your favorite thing about this house? And because they live in the house.
Right.
And they might know some things that you're not going to see
Yeah.
when you walk through. So I think asking questions is key, and communicating with our clients is huge.
Yeah.
And we need to all do a better job of that.
Yeah. How much of that is part of almost the listing appointment that you go on? That rather than just talking about here's everything I do as a service, as a listing agent, but you're actually already getting into like why they bought the house. Like, you're getting them to open up and talk
Why
a little bit.
Why do you want to move? And
Yeah.
What do you like about this house? What's your next house? And then it becomes more of a partnership.
Right.
And it really needs to be.
Yeah.
Because you can market the house, get the house ready, but they're the ones that have to leave for every showing, and they're an equal part of it. So,
Yeah.
and they have, often the key to the success of the sale in regards to those features that we wouldn't know about, or whatever. And it's different depending on timing, location, the age of the house, the condition. I mean, there's so many factors.
Yeah.
Every single one is so
Yeah.
different.
But I think what's neat about that is that sometimes I know, for newer agents or even more experienced agents, but sometimes that going on that listing appointment when it isn't like a close friend or family that you're going through and you're hoping it's just going to be a formality, but there is an intimidation factor there of like, and you want to go there and just do this like information dump of like, here's everything I can do for you. But you framed it differently. Like, if you start asking questions of them and why they love their house and why they're wanting to move and what's the best thing they've loved, why they've lived here, that gets them opening up, and you're just listening at that point, and people
Yeah.
love to talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes a big difference, and I think that's a lesson that they can take away from. One of the things we're looking at when we were getting ready for this was that you've done some kind of unique things too to like bring attention to a house, and I know that you do MLS tours, but you also did kind of an event at a house where people came over and they got some B12 injections and things. So
Yes.
talk a little bit about that. Like, what kind of was the inspiration of that? How did that work? And
Well, that was actually a great event.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too for people to understand when you put something out there, the measurement of that success is not always, for instance, if it's an open house.
Sure.
How many people came to the open house?
Right, because that's the one metric everyone just wants to zero in. How many people came
How
through?
many people came?
Yeah.
But there are so many other ways to use that. You can send notes to neighbors, and you can, make Facebook posts. There's so many ways to market. So even if people don't come to the open house, they see that house is for sale.
Yeah.
And they have that, and they might come back later or make an appointment later.
Right.
But that particular one, I just thought I'd like a B12 shot, that I could use some energy this week. And I called a wellness clinic, and they said sure. They had a nurse come, and so I did have a good amount of people come and
Yeah.
get shots, and it was really quick and easy. And then they toured the house, and it was for agents. And,
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to do my emailing, and that was I had the best open rate of anything I've ever done. And I think because it was unique.
Yeah.
I think we really need to that one wasn't really tied to the house. It was more because I wanted a B12 shot. But
Hey, but if you could combine both things together,
right. If I want one, other people must want one.
That's exactly right.
They
Absolutely.
can kill two birds with
Yeah.
one stone. Come
Yeah.
look at the house and get a shot.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, well, and I just think that what was neat about that is just trying to find different things that other agents aren't seeing every day. You mentioned it was for agents to come in and do that. Sometimes we can get kind of that rut where we're doing the same promotions all the time, and so thinking outside the box a little bit is can be fun and unique. And I think the other thing you touched on too, which was I think important, was I think we do look for specific metrics sometimes. I held the open house, this many people came through or didn't come through, and that is the only gauge of success or not success. And opening yourself up to, but you sent out something to 500 people by email or 200 people by postcard, and you don't know what that's going to potentially lead to.
Right.
And is that kind of the mindset you have for a lot of the marketing you do?
Yes, for all of it.
Yeah.
You can take one, marketing idea and put it out there with 5 different mediums, and then you don't really know which one is working or which, how to measure those analytics, but you're multiplying exposure to the house.
Right.
It's always about the house.
Yeah. How do you, so when you would finish an event like that, like the one you did with the B12 injections or any type of open house or MLS tour, how do you feed that information back to the seller? Because you know what defines success or not, but sometimes they're very much focused on how many boots walk through the door. How do you kind of message that to your sellers?
Well, that goes back to communicating with them in the beginning and thoroughly along the way. And I try to make sure that they know, of course, something like that too, they have to approve.
Yeah. We're bringing a nurse into your house, yeah.
Right, so they approve it, and they know how I'm going to market it and why I'm going to market it. And if you do a lot of, I think, communication on the front end, you don't have as many questions on the back end.
Yeah, it says the management of expectations, setting those expectations.
Very, very important.
Yeah, well, one of the other things I thought was really neat is that even though you did not end up becoming an architect from drawing floor plans over the year, your daughter ended up is an architecture at Tulane right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, she loves it, and it's kind of funny how that happened.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something she grew up saying she wanted to do all along.
Right.
But after she applied to colleges and I read her essay, I was so surprised that she said the passion for architecture started when she was looking at all those open houses on Sunday. So
with Mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We thought it was fun, and we would always go in when we weren't in the market. I wanted to be, but we weren't. And we'd say, oh, how would we redo this house? Or, where would the furniture go? All the time, even when she was really little.
Yeah.
So.
And it's kind of, I think so many kids in our industry grow up with that. And it's always neat to see when it gets passed on to the next generation as well, too. And so whether it's through architecture or they become a real estate sales professional themselves. And then you also mentioned it's been 6 years since you moved, and so you're feeling the itch, but your husband likes to stay put.
Yes.
And so is that a battle over the next couple of years?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I think a year and a half. Our youngest is graduating in a year and a half.
Right.
I have a good argument in a year
that's
and a
good.
half.
That's a good milestone.
Maybe not
that's a
until
compromise.
Then, but I'm thinking within 2 years we'll be moving.
That's awesome. Marti, thank you so much for
you
sitting
for
down. I
having
think you
me.
shared some great information that agents that are newer to the business and very experienced can all kind of take some of those lessons. And I think one of the big ones is really that setting expectations with their clients, and then those communications with the sellers and everything, I think is something that all of us can always be better at. So,
Yeah,
so
I
thank
hope it
you.
helps. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in to this week's Market Shapers. We appreciate it.